Now it's time to go over my value starts of the week for week 4. We're going to start here at the quarterback position, and Matthew Stafford going against the Colts defense number 28. Now Stafford gets to take on that Colts defense who has been struggling. With the expected return of Anthony Richardson, that should make this contest more competitive, which means more opportunities for the Rams and Stafford to put up more fantasy points. Stafford should be a safe play this week, especially look for him to get even Puka Nacua, maybe even Tutu Atwell more involved into this offense than they were last week, which should be good, really good for his fantasy value. You could even possibly look for a 300-yard game from Matthew Stafford this week. Next quarterback we're going to talk about here is Russell Wilson taking on that Bears defense who's given up the 27th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Now I know that what y'all are probably thinking with this pick, but just remember that this is fantasy football, not NFL football. Yes, the Broncos got a good old-fashioned whooping last week by the Dolphins, but Wilson still put up over 300 yards passing and a touchdown. This week, he gets a Bears defense that seems to be playing only with 6 people on defense because they be's trash. They can't stop anybody. Russell Wilson should be a great play this week against the Bears. Get rid of your biasness and put Wilson in your lineup. Next guy we're talking about here for a nice little value type of start would be Daniel Jones going against the Seahawks defense, giving up the 23rd most points to fantasy quarterbacks. Daniel Jones was a complete disappointment last season against the 49ers, to say the least. The Giants have to put just way too much money in this guy in this last offseason to bench him going on for this season, so they're going to have to ride or die with this guy. Jones has to put up or shut up at this point, and I believe he can see some success against this Seahawks secondary. Look for Daniel Jones to bounce back this week. Let's move it right along to the running back position. I'm going to start here with Roshan Johnson going against that Broncos defense, ranking number 32nd in points allowed to opposing running backs. Roshan Johnson has already beaten out Deonta Foreman. Now he has Khalil Herbert in his sights. The Bears are a complete disaster as a team, so they will surely start to give Johnson more and more opportunities to see what they have in this youngster. Combine all of what I just said with the Broncos ranking dead last in points scored against the running backs, and you should see an explosive game from Johnson this week. I believe Herbert will still vulture some work for sure, but with Johnson's talent, it should reign supreme this week. Moving on to the next running back here, we're talking about Isaiah Pacheco going against that Jets defense ranked number 19th and giving up fantasy points to opposing running backs. I do like Pacheco this week. Even with Clyde Edwards-Helaire biting at his heels for touches, I believe that Pacheco is just a better running back. The Chiefs should blow the doors off the Jets this week, and I see a massive workload coming for this entire running game. Pacheco should easily see 20 plus carries this week, and it's an easy play for sure. Get him in your lineups. Last running back we're talking about today is James Cook going against that Dolphins run defense ranking number 26 and giving up for fantasy points to opposing running backs. Cook has been a pleasant surprise for me thus far this season. He's been completely dominating the touches in his backfield and has shown that, like his brother, has been able to handle that bell cow type of workload with success. Just last week on 15 carries, he ran for 98 yards, which was a 6.5 yards per carry average. There should be some points scored in this matchup with the Dolphins, and if the Bills just grab an early lead, they're going to attempt to control the clock with that run game to keep Tua and the Dolphins off the field. I can easily see success for Cook in week 4. Moving right along here to the wide receiver position, talking about Adam Thielen going against the Vikings defense ranked number 30th, giving up the 30th most points to opposing wide receivers. Thielen was able to showcase his abilities with a quarterback who can actually throw the ball last week. Bryce Young has been struggling so far in his career, but with Andy Dalton getting that start last week, Thielen exploded for 145 yards and a touchdown. Even if Young is back this week, Thielen is a good play, but if Andy Dalton is the quarterback against the Vikings defense, you could be looking at another solid performance for Thielen. The next wide receiver we're going over today is Nico Collins going on that Steelers defense, giving them the 28th most points to opposing wide receivers. Nico Collins took a back seat to Tank Dell last week, but I do believe that against these Steelers, Collins will once again reclaim his number 1 wide receiver target share. There should be plenty of passing opportunity against this defense, and CJ Stroud continues to develop, so I think that Nico Collins' fantasy numbers will also start to develop and improve. Start Collins with confidence this week. Last wide receiver we're going over here today is going to be Terry McLaurin. Now he's going against an Eagles defense that's given up the 24th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. The combination of expecting the Commanders to get the brains beaten out of them and the Eagles ranking 24th against, for fantasy points to opposing wide receivers just has me intrigued with Terry McLaurin this week. Sam Howell is definitely having his growing pains, but he's actually a good quarterback in my opinion. Even given a little time, I think McLaurin could be a sneaky start this week. Moving right along to the tight end position, we're going with Chig Okonkwo going against that Bengals defense, giving up the 29th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Chig Okonkwo was extremely hyped up this offseason and has completely just pooped the bed thus far this season. He isn't getting the targets that was expected to get, and he isn't producing at all in fantasy. This week, I can see Chig go to new heights against a defense that struggles defending the tight end position. The tight ends will be losing all game long, and they're going to need to throw the ball for pretty much the entire game. Now, we all know that they will get Derrick Henry involved, but I do have a huge hunch that this is the week you need to start Chig Okonkwo. Take my advice, put him in your lineup, and I'm telling you guys, he's going to have a good game in week 4. Next tight end we're talking about here today is Gerald Everett going over that Raiders defense, who's given up the 27th most points to opposing tight ends. There are a few things going for Gerald Everett in this matchup. The obvious one is that the Raiders defense is putrid against opposing tight ends. The other is that Mike Williams is now lost for the season and they need to get Quentin Johnston really still up to speed. So who are they going to go to with the red zone targets? Yep, you guessed right, none other than Gerald Everett. This could be a sneaky good spot for this tight end. Get him in your lineups. Last tight end we're talking about today is Dalton Kincaid going against that Dolphins defense who's given up the 25th most points to opposing tight ends. The Bills will need to put the ball in the air to compete with these Dolphins high-powered offense. So while I think they will get ahead and hopefully they're going to be pounding that rock with Cook, I believe in order to get ahead, they need to pass the ball, and who other than the 25th ranked pass defense against tight end position. Dalton Kincaid was the best pass catching tight end coming out of college this season, in my opinion. Now this week he could prove me right by going out there and smashing the Dolphins right in the mouth. Now on to the Bengal Tiger start of the week. The Bengal Tiger start of the week is running back Naagi Harris. Harris is going against a Texans defense ranked 28th against opposing running backs. Last week, even with Jaylen Warren in the mix, Harris got 19 carries. This week, with that same workload, we should finally see Harris in the end zone because the Texans is a team that hands out running back success on a silver platter. I'm absolutely in love with Harris this week, and you should be too. Don't have a bad taste in your mouth over Harris's putrid production thus far this season. This week is the week he turns it around and easily the Bengal Tiger start of the week.